theory of Quabbalistic mysticism. I have already pointed out several times that the interpretations of Oriental books on yoga, tantra and other spiritual fields is insufficient, and I have emphasized that nearly all writers who translated these works from an Oriental language into a language of the Occident did not consider the fact that the contents of these writings are to be understood symbolically. A true Hermetic finds it easy to tell a symbolic language from an intellectual one. He will never translate Oriental writings literally and will always be able to comprehend the true sense of the teachings, especially of the Hermetic science, and to elaborate it for practical use. Therefore, the many books written on QUABBALAH, mysticism, etc., were partly, if not completely, misunderstood and passed on that way. Since numerous works during the many centuries have been written on the Hermetic science, most of them of Oriental origin, and one translator has taken over the science from another, sometimes changing it speculatively, it is easy to see that the true laws and the true science became occult, or has been lost nearly completely during the course of time. Naturally, many mystic societies have been founded in the course of time which all claim to have been initiated into the true science. A true magician, however, will never tie himself to any society, whatever name it might have. By oaths and the like, he will remain free from any fetters of the world in order to make his spiritual way without any compulsion and appreciation of his authority. In all genuine circles of initiation, the master is the teacher and friend of the pupil and will never try to influence his student's spiritual way by his authority or try to force him to acknowledge his supremacy. Wherever some kind of compulsion is exercised upon the seeker, either by means of oaths or by other obligations, one can hardly assume that true science is being taught. Much could be said about this, but this reference may suffice to make the reader realize that the numerous mystic societies that exist in our world are not always the place where one may gain the purest and most perfect knowledge, and that a student must always strive after his own way to initiation. The first beginning of many societies is usually established on financial motives, and their members will sooner or later make the sad experience that they can achieve there anything but genuine knowledge. Above all, the Quabbalist is interested in the practical application of the word, that is, the use of letters, which leads to the comprehension of the cosmic language. The origin of the Quabbalistic mysticism is to be found in the Far East and dates back to the days of yore. Right from the beginning of mankind, initiates have passed on, by tradition, the Quabbalistic mysticism from one race to another. Recently, the mysticism of letters as propagated by J.B. Koenig has roused the interest of many. The concept of this mysticism also originates from the Orient. Koenig refers to the Bible from a religious point of view when he interprets the washing of the disciples' feet by Christ symbolically, by spelling. It is not my intention to criticize Koenig's system. Everybody should act according to his personal conviction and stick to the system he has chosen, if nothing better is accessible to him. A genuine Hermetic will not want to combine letter mysticism with the washing of the disciples' feet by Jesus, for this has quite a different meaning from the Hermetic point of view. It indicates that each individual has to begin his personal development from the lowest sphere or plane, that of the earth. Only very little has been written about the mysticism of letters in the civilized world, so that nobody has a clear idea about its right use. The teachings of Koenig which recommend spelling letters in one's feet cannot be recommended from the Hermetic point of view. The Hermetic will see at once the reason for this, for by concentrating the letters in one's feet the transfer of one's consciousness has to be trained, and any transfer of consciousness, whether into the feet or into any other part of the body, leads to an unnatural vascular congestion. Whether the means to this end be letters or simple or compound words, names of deities ASO, is of no consequence. By transferring one's consciousness into the feet, and by concentrating on them, heat is produced which is erroneously regarded as the fire of mysticism by the mystics. This transfer of one's consciousness has its psychological and physiological attendant symptoms and the like, which are also erroneously taken for mystical experiences, special states of the soul and the spirit. A person having good character and strong moral virtues and striving after high ideals need not lose his mental equilibrium or perceive within him any psychological disharmonies, ASO, at the moment of doing exercises in accordance with Kerning's teachings. But people lacking a strong character and good health, thus having little power of resistance, may suffer great injuries of body, soul and spirit. Should a student want to apply Kerning's mysticism of letters practically, in a hermetic way, he would first have to be in perfect physical, psychological and mental equilibrium, and would have to have his will, his intellect and his feelings trained and strengthened by long and deep concentration exercises so that he fully masters the three elements, fire, air and water, in order to be able to operate consciously without any danger. He who has balanced out the three elements in his body, soul and spirit, and has attained a certain grade of personal stability will not be content with such an inadequate system. Equipped with these virtues, he is already on the way to perfection so that he would find the way of legality by his intuition. The danger of imbalance by one-sided mystical exercises with letters, is so much the greater with fanatics. I have met many people whose exercises in the mysticism of letters sooner or later resulted in mental disturbances due to this one-sided transfer of consciousness. I was able to restore to these people their equilibrium by the power of magic and to save them from suffering any further damages to their health. These exercises with mysticism of letters in one's feet cause a splitting of the personality, schizophrenia, with all its serious consequences. A true seeker will not deal with the mysticism of letters unless he has fulfilled the required preconditions necessary for the success. This clearly shows how inexcusable it is if writings of Oriental origin are interpreted incorrectly and translated literally into an intellectual language. The true Quabbalistic mysticism of letters, described by me in this book, is very old and rests on the analogies of the universal laws. The universal Quabbalistic mysticism is something quite different from mere exercises in the transfer of one's consciousness, all the same if you only use single letters or mantras. When working practically, one has to take consideration of the universal laws and their analogies in one's spirit, soul and body. In true Quabbalistic mysticism, the Quabbalist does not only operate with his consciousness alone, but learns to apply letters practically, and at a later stage also compound words, that is, formulas, with the four basic qualities of his spirit, that is, with his will, intellect, feeling and consciousness, imagination. It corresponds with the construction of genuine QUABBALAH, of true Quabbalistic mysticism, that these four basic qualities of the spirit be first kept apart by the Quabbalist to enable him later to project a letter, with its powers and analogies, practically into the spheres of the spirit, the soul and the physical matter within himself and outside of himself, now using all four basic qualities of the spirit. In the practical part of this book, the future Quabbalist will be given details of this mysticism in a systematic course consisting of stages, apart from the details on the use of the quadrupolar magnet in spirit, soul and body.